So we're talking about redefining, right? You are what you do. What you do defines you. So what I do now, I'm a board member, I do global training and education program for volunteers. That's what I do that defines me, right? Or I go to these different countries where there's disaster, there's war, even Turkey and Syria refugees. We go to Serbia, all these places. Or maybe in Poland, when after Ukraine, the war, Ukraine-Russia, we were able to go there and set up all these refugee centers. That defines me. And today I'm going to talk about redefining and reframing. So you don't be defined by what you do, but you get to define what you do, and therefore you get to define who you are. And I really believe that. So today I'm not going to be talking anymore about me. I'm going to be talking about Tzu Chi, how Tzu Chi actually redefines. If you think about Tzu Chi, what is Tzu Chi? What kind of organization? Whether you heard of it or not, and probably you're going to be thinking about charity. Is charity? Yes, we do charity. Okay, a lot of charity cases, whether in the dark corners here in Taiwan or in different parts of the country, in the world. We're religious. Yes, mostly we're Buddhist, but there are Muslims. There are also Catholics, Christians. One of the biggest outside of Taiwan, the biggest membership in Tzu Chi is in Indonesia and Malaysia, and they're all Muslims. And now we go to the Philippines, they're all Catholic. So we do have a lot of followers. There are not more followings of Tzu Chi's movement, but we're not necessarily religious. But it is religious. I mean, I'm Buddhist. And we're also doing a lot of environmental. You know, we do, right now, Dr. Peng Qi, who is right now the minister of黄晟祐here in Taiwan. It's also started with our Tzu Chi as well. So we do recycling. So who are we? Let me just share with you the 4 things we do. And I'm going to share with you how to redefine. So these are the 4 major missions. Obviously we do charity, we do medicine, anything dealing with medical issues. We do education, and we do humanistic culture. Let me explain to all these 4 things. Obviously, you know, these are the charity. I don't need to explain further. I think you all know. You can probably turn on the TV, and if you really want to, there's a lot of news outlets now today that you're able to find all these disasters happening in the world. But I'm going to tell you, that's charity, all right. But we have to define what we do. We're not going to let what we do define us. We're going to define what we do. So charity is not just about distribution. We're not just talking about, you need something, let me give you something. There's an earthquake, let me give you shelter. You need food, I'm going to give you food. No, it's not about that. Then what is it about? It's about finding that hope. And I'm not kidding. You know, if we do charity just about giving, you probably won't last very long, because we cannot raise that much money like the money that's raised in the US. The US has so many more NGOs that make a lot more, raise a lot more funds than we do. We cannot compete on the level of financial. If you want to build these things, they can build 10 times, 100 times more. But I think it's about hope. It's about finding and giving that hope. This was in Zimbabwe, 2012, the year I went to Zimbabwe. And the road looks like this. The main road that's connected from the airport to their biggest city, Harare, it looks like this. On the side, you can see there's a lot of bush. It's not like, if you look outside, all the trees were planted there. The trees just naturally grow there. Okay, so Zimbabwe is like this. And we went there for a school project. So 100 trillion. And this was back then. I think their currency, they ran out of places to print the zeros. 100 trillion. I mean, imagine if you cannot read, and many of the people in Zimbabwe cannot read. If you cannot read, how would you be able to count the zeros? I mean, imagine you're going to grocery and you take out the cash and you have to count the number of zeros. So anyway, that's their money, and all this money, because due to inflation, horrible inflation, this paper, 100 trillion, isn't even enough for the cost of paper. Cost of paper of printing this money. And that's why I was able to bring a lot of these home, because they're all in the garbage can, all in the dumpster. So I'm not smuggling money. I'm not right. So when you fill out how much money you bring in, I'm not gonna say I bring 100 trillion. I just said I bring a lot of paper that got printed, a lot of zeros. Okay, so these are the schools. So I went there. Zimbabwe is called the country of rocks, and it shows you. This is truly, I mean, if you go to Taiwan, probably Hualien, you will see a lot of 大理石, and that's a lot of rocks. But this is what, and then, about 40 minutes from their capital, Harare, this is what you see. And these are the kids that go to school there. And one of our projects was to go there and build classrooms for them. And so when we're there, going there to survey the sites, these are the kids. And trust me, they study harder than I study harder than what I was when I was their age. And they were sitting there, and there was nothing to cover the sun. So you would think that, they're African, so they probably don't get darker when they get too much. They probably don't get suntan, right? Because they're already so dark, right? Well, I don't know. But I got darker, that's for sure, when I come back. So the interesting thing about them is that during the day, depending on the hour, they will shift. Because, like you see, somebody here is in the shade, so they know that when the sun is shifting, it's like a sundial. The sun is shifting, they will shift locations, so that they don't have to be always under the sun. And each class, this is about third grade. In that school, this is at the third grade. About 150 or so kids there. And this is their, some of their higher grades, they have these cover tarps on top. To be able to shield them, or if they would just go to have the huge giant trees. And this was back in 2012. So you see this, these are the blackboard. So each classroom they have this, and you would see that the blackboard that would hang up there, because they would have a class monitor, a helper or assistant or teacher's assistant. They would always rise up, they would climb up, and then they would hang their blackboard up there. And then they would get an extra credit for doing this. So very different from our schools. Very, very different. So we saw that, and unfortunately I didn't bring you their notebooks. I mean, their notebooks, it was just, my handwriting is a lot more sloppier than they are. And I saw them like, oh my God, this is your notebook. They really, understand. They were able to write very, legibly. You were able to read them. Okay, so that they have all these, it's all in English. So I was able to communicate with them. It was talking about, I think it was capillaries, the water, how the water was able to go up the stem of the plants. Okay, so we had this project to build these classrooms, okay? And so we did, these are the frames, and so we have about 10 of us, volunteers like me. We were trained before heading there, and we need to learn how to build this up. So I was a computer scientist. I don't have any architecture or engineering, physical engineering background. My engineering is computer and software, not hardware. But we were able to learn a little bit about how to put them together, and then we built them. And so the country of rocks is not really a joke. There were a lot of rocks. We had to remove these rocks so that we have enough place to put our classrooms. So, and honestly, this is a great country, because all the people that were working were mothers. Okay, I cannot see any men around. That's why this place is full with love. And this is one of our volunteers, William. But all these, they were moving the rocks. They were all mothers, and I don't know why, but mothers seems to have the biggest strength, even more than that. Okay, so you can see them. We were digging the foundation, and it's all mothers again. And I came back and I report this to our master, Master Chen Yan. And I explained, and Master Chen Yan said to me, why is it that everyone working there are female, right? Why is it only ladies or girls or women working? Where are the men? And so I couldn't answer where the men were. I couldn't possibly tell them. They were probably on the way to, they're probably drinking or on the way to drinking. And so I can't, there was not a good thing to respond. But I explained why it was all mostly mothers. Because we were building classes for them, classrooms. And all these were mothers where their kids are going to come to these classes. we were building their schools. And that's why they were so willingly to come and help. And so eventually these kids come and help too. And they're not lining up to receive. So I talked about, it's not about giving them something. It's about showing them there is hope. We're coming here to help you with education. You can help yourself too. So they line up not to receive candies or receive food or receive blankets or clothing or shoes or book bags. They're coming to say, I want to help. This is my school. For me, for my brothers and sisters, for even my kids, I'm going to help too. So they begin to do the work, right? You see, all these kids were looking at him. Why? Because there were only 2 of these shovels around. They take turns. They were waiting for the opportunity to go at it. My turn to dig up this tunnel to build a foundation. That's what they're doing for their own school. That's what I meant. This is what eventually what we build for them. The girls, they come inside and then they try to, it's a lot of dust, a lot of sand, so then they're trying to, so eventually we built it, and now the crooked blackboard is inside. We changed that. So, hope. Now they know. This is what it's like to not be under the sun, whether they're tan or not. You can tell them or you can tell the tan line on their face. You can't, obviously, but it doesn't matter because it's no longer an issue. They will always say that they got continuous shine by the sun, and it's not like they're gonna get tan lines, but it's that they're gonna get headache. They cannot focus at work. And so eventually they're inside, and there's no chairs, nothing, but they're able to be so happy. Okay, so hope. The school like this. But you look at these kids, they don't look African. Exactly, because this was year 2013. Back then it was 2012. That was our prototype of these makeshift schools. In the next year, in the Philippines, when Hurricane Haiyan struck, we were ready because we built these classrooms a year ahead in prototype in Africa. So all the material, all the manufacturing, and all the volunteers to put together, we have an SOP for it a year ahead. So we were prepared. So in 2013, these were mass produced. Not there locally in Philippines. All these the pieces, even the number of bolts and nuts were counted here in Taipei and then shipped by boat, by ship to Philippines. And we built hundreds of these. Because we had 1 year ahead and we're getting prepared. That's what I'm talking about. Finding that hope, not just giving you the food or giving you something that you need right now. Oh, you need water? You need food? No. I'm giving you a chance at future. One shot at succeeding in life, education. That's why in Zimbabwe, they have very low dropout rate because they know the only thing they have is education. So we're giving them the one thing that we can have to give them hope, schools. Okay, so this is 2015 in Nepal. I remember it was at the end of April when Nepal had this 7.8 magnitude struck. And I went there, and this is what we saw. And we see a lot of everybody run out. And I'm sure if you have experienced April 3rd here in Taiwan, and most of you are in Taipei, if you're in Taipei. I live in Hualien, and that was the epicenter. And it was shaking, huge shaking. I did never experience such huge earthquake, but that's what happened. And so back then, 2015, they all rushed out. There was tents all over the place, and we saw this. I saw this. We gave him this. But one of the UN officials came to this relocation center, and then we were talking, because he heard my accent was almost from US, so we were talking. And he said, well, we don't know which organization gave this, because all the people were, saying how good this was. And I said, well, we did. And why did we give them this? I'll explain. See, all the things. And you see these are Indonesia, the national flags of Indonesia, because we ship a lot of our things, not just from Taiwan, but we also have our warehouse in stockpiles also in Indonesia. So they would ship there, fly there by military planes, by sending there the food and blanket, etc. So they were able to put all their belongings on top. And I'm going to explain why. So it's about giving that hope. So what's hope? What are we giving them? Believing you have the power to change. That's hope. I might not be able to change right now. I might not be able to right away show you that your kids or your life from this point on, because now you're in contact with Tzu Chi, now your life is all golden. No. But we're going to make you believe. We're going to work with you so that you have the power to change. That's what hope is. What is hopelessness? You just think about what's going to happen. I cannot change. For example, tomorrow the sun is going to come out. You cannot change that. Or you probably shouldn't try to change that. But that's something that you're powerless to do. But hope is believing you can do that. And that's what we're giving them. We're giving them, now you have better schools, now you have better opportunity in life, now you have a better opportunity at future. So this was our Malaysian charity case. And his name was Hamid. It was Rohingya. I'm sure you probably, if you watch the news, you know. There are a lot of people in the world that were oppressed. And many of them were oppressed politically. Many of them were oppressed due to their religion. Rohingya was one of them. And they were oppressed by Buddhists. So we feel somehow connected to that. We're a Buddhist organization. And therefore, we want to do something. So our Malaysian volunteers, go to care for these relocated refugees. So his name was Hamid, 27 years old, and these were his story. He wanted to go to USA. Imagine that. How much money would it take? Not just talking about the airplane ticket or relocation or the cost of living. You have to take your kids to USA, and then we thought about why. Because seek medical treatment for his son. This guy is not thinking about, I'm going to get a better life because I get to New York or get to the United States. This guy is thinking, my son needs medical treatment and I can't get them here in Malaysia. So I need help. That's what we did. So our volunteers look at him and say, well, what exactly is the problem with your son? So our volunteers also have medical background. We have doctors, we have nurses. So they went to look for him. So these are the doctor's notes. And they're talking about severe, there's a global, in terms of the body, development delay. 4 years old, Abu cannot roll over, cannot sit unsupported, crawl, walk, talk, or make comprehensible sounds. 4 years old. Horrible, right? So, this is Abu, right? Hamid was thinking, the only hope I have for my future for this kid is go to the US. So our volunteer says, well, going to the US is very difficult. While waiting for the process, and that process probably is not going to come. But while waiting, let us help you. So our volunteers, who has all these necessary backgrounds, right, begin to diagnose. Well, what does he eat, right? And this is what happens, right? We're eating these food because we enjoy the sweetness, right? Milo, something that we might like. Sweetener, right? So these condensed milk, that's usually what we add on top of suapin or shaved ice. That's usually what we have, right? So because they eat for quantity, they don't want the kid to be hungry, so they eat quantity. And the kids doesn't want to eat just rice, so you have to add these sweetener, right? These condensed milk on top of all these rice, so that the kids will not be hungry. Imagine eating that. So the kids will only grow fat. Their diet is so unbalanced, right? A plate of white rice with gravy at 8 p.m. So that's what they eat because they have nothing else to eat, right? And they're not, their education, their level of living, they don't understand. So our volunteers went to help them, provide with physical therapy, right? Eventually he was able to sit up. So that's hope. You don't have to go to the US. Let's give you a temporary stop where you know that life is not failing you. That's what we give. Tzu Chi, whether there's a lot of good or bad, we give a lot of people hope in this world. And so coming back to this platform and the origin of this platform was this. This was back in 2012. Once again, I was there. I didn't take this picture, but this was in Pakistan. I didn't take this picture, but I was there. I saw this young girl, and then we come back and we report this story, that this was a week-old baby. It doesn't look week-old, but a week-old baby was just born. and the parents, because of flood, lost their homes, had no place to go. So the child was laying on the ground with a lot of blankets. And our founder, Dharma Master Cheng Yen, says, well, what happens when the water comes? Are you going to stand up? Are you going to stand up and sleep? You can't possibly lie on the ground all this time. So we start thinking, what can we do for them? So this is our generation one. Something raised platform. So when the water comes in, when it rains, we're able to have all the things to keep dry. So you don't get inundated when the water comes from the sidewalk. You have your roof to stop the rain, but the rain's going to come from the side when the flood comes. So we have this raised platform, so you can put all your things on top of it, so you will still remain dry. And that really answered that, except this is too soft. So we began to, manufacture, we have this idea, let's help them, give them something that they need. So we go there, we found their problems, and we give them something they need. So we give this out, so we distribute this, right? All these volunteers, it was back in Pakistan, 2012, the first time we sent a kid. The second time we go back in 2014, we sent back with all these new things, and it didn't work out that well. So we have our third generation, and that's called this. Much sturdier. Giving them something that they can sit on, rely on, and that's what we do. So we have a brand new, complete, the section. All these are in Taiwan. So once again, you don't want people to just sit on the ground, right? Sleep on the ground. You want them to have some kind of platform where they can put their things. And these are in Taiwan. And then eventually, you probably see them on the news. Recently, after the earthquake, we have these dividers, the indoor tents, which is able to provide a little bit of shelter, a little bit of privacy. Okay, so once again, what's hope? Charity is not just about giving them food or money or something to get them to have the next month to be okay or get to the next month. It's about believing you have the power to change. Plant-based diet is something that if you believe, you can change, you can choose the food that you put in your mouth. Whether it's Hillary Clinton that's the president or Donald Trump. They can't tell you what you put in your mouth. You can. So I really believe that, personally, I really believe who the president is going to be, whether it's Joe Biden or it's Donald Trump, or in our case, last year, this year, January, when there was the election, I really believe that regardless of who the president it is, I think we all have this power. You have this power more so than I do. You have youth. You have your much better background. I got my first computer when I was 14 years old, when I was in the States. I didn't even have a computer when I was in Taiwan. And that was, back then, right? I got my first cell phone after 2 years in my first job. We were still using pagers. But now, my nephew and niece, my niece, this year just graduated from high school. And she's going to MIT. And these are their futures. She grew up with an iPad. You have a much better preparation for the future than we were. You have much more power than you believe. You have to believe that you have the power to change. That's hope. And I really believe that. So, you have the power to change. I remember 2012 when Barack Obama was running for president. It was a campaign on change. I was there in Chicago. We were running, we were rooting for him. So I remember these times. These were our history, our days. Now in this time, in this day, my future, your future, it's going to rely on all of you, believing that we can change. So, thank you. And this was back in Bonn. This was, even though it says 2020, this was actually 2017 when I was there in UFCCC. And this is Dr. Peng. So just to show you that, I do know somebody in the government. 这个环境部长. And we were there because we were the Tzu Chi delegates for UNFCCC. And so that concludes today's sharing.
First, I would like to say congratulate to you that you're still having strong hair as a computer science engineer. And I do want to ask, what is the motivation? So you saw Taiwan having those earthquakes, and you know that it's a truly disaster around here. But however, as a top student, graduated from Cornell and having such a family, if I was you, I'm certain I wouldn't do this decision. I can make millions of dollars every year, probably US dollars or even euros. And I wouldn't give up all these chances and go to these more of a developing country, which can really threaten you no matter in your wealth or in your physical security or safetyness. So you might die when you go there. So what actually motivated you this much that you can put everything out back and go there straight?
Thank you. A good question. Sometimes I ask myself that question too. Even my parents ask me, "Are you really sure?" And my dad, even to this day, still says, "If you ever want to come back to the U.S., if you ever want to come back, just leave Hawaii and leave Taiwan and come to New York, and we welcome you." It's not like I leave home. It's still my home. But what motivates me? I think it takes time. Okay, first it takes time. And when you get to see a lot of these, I was going to show a video on COVID, and I didn't. But I remember back in 2020. I don't know if you people easily forget things nowadays, but I remember back in 2020 when COVID first hit. It wasn't Taiwan, it was U.S. It completely broke out, and it was in New York. And I would keep my eyes on the television. And I would see, at the time, it was Bloomberg, it was Cuomo, Governor Cuomo, giving press conference on, if you think about Chen Shizhong 部长 at the time, giving conference every 3 o'clock. You might know, you might not know, but I was sticking my eyes to that because my parents live in New York. And they might not have the best health conscious, in keeping your mask on, etc. And they had to keep their daily lives working, right? So we see stories where people were kept in the hospital and they cannot come out. Their last moments cannot even be with their loved ones. And so I really felt it, and I really felt helpless. I think when we go through that, just like what Mr. Lee before me said, when you go through that helplessness, you no longer think that this world it's going to suffice with you yourself. You no longer believe that I can survive on my own. You start to believe that I am going to do something so that I can empower other people. They can help themselves together with this group of people. And then so you're helping yourself in a way that when you need this help, everybody is capable to come back to help you. This world is we are a group creature. Everybody does well means the world does well. If only you do well, it's not going to work. And I remember there's always this story. Our founder, Zhen Yan Fa Si, Master Cheng Yan, always tells those very ultra rich in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in Taiwan. They will always tell you, do you know the mosquito in Kaohsiung, dengue fever? Do you think the mosquito is going to see, oh, you are rich, so I don't bite you. I'm going to bite the people that are poor? No, the mosquitoes don't care. Virus don't care. But if you're able to help the people that are poor, or help this region to get better, so then they don't have the places where the mosquito is going to grow, then you get less chances to get bitten. And not only that, your kids, your family members, and everybody, they get less chances to get bitten. You are helping yourself. So I started as very selfish too. You are helping yourself. And eventually, you begin to think that maybe after all, you're not just helping yourself. You are truly wanting to help people. Only by helping others, then you are beginning to help yourself too. So if you're talking about 投资报酬率, and if you're talking about investment on return, return on investment, that's what it is. But to go a step further, now it's really hard for me to even think about the people, our friends in Africa or our friends in Nepal, where they don't have enough food or after the hurricane, because I went through them and I know how difficult it is. I can't bear myself to see them go through that, so I want to do more to help. So I think we all have it in all of us. We have it in all of us to make that difference. We have it in all of us to make that small, simple action. We can change the world. You can too. So thank you for your question. Okay, gentleman back there, please raise your hand. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. This is inspiring, and you are very charismatic, I would say. My question is about the first couple of slides that you showed, that you were asked a question by a doctor. So I'm wondering, for now, how would you answer to that question?
So the question I believe you're referring to was, do you think you're better than him, right?
Yeah.
When you see the little kid, I think it was in El Salvador. Back then, I really believe, and back then, we were all doing, well, I don't want to say overachiever, but we definitely achieved to a certain level so that we get to where we're successful, right? Goldman wasn't some place that you could just get in. IBM at the time, database, we were at the top echelon. And so a lot of things, we take it for granted. We're thinking, I am where I am because I work hard, because I'm smart, because I have all these things in my mind, my head, my parents gave me these able bodies so I can work hard to get where I want. That's still true. You still have to work hard. But I began to realize that without all the people around me to make this happen, imagine you are so smart, but there's no school for you. Imagine that you want to, you have the capable bodies, but there's no food for you to continue to grow. How would you be able to compete with other countries, with other cities, with other people, other generations? You can't. So the whole idea changes slowly. It's no longer that you alone can survive or can do well. It's not enough. You have to make the society better. So my job here, like what I do eventually, I become a board member and I become the global director for the volunteer training because I want everybody to become better. Not just me. Everybody to be experts in their area, to know the things they need to know, to be inspired, to know that they have the power, because only then will we collectively be able to face the challenge of the future. By ourselves, we can't. So from that point on, realize it's not just your language skill, it's not just how charismatic you are, it's not how many things you know in your head, it's we as a group, can we work together? And I believe that that's the key. So if you go back to that, do you think you're better? Maybe I'm better. But if you have 10 of you working together, it's going to be better than me. So I began to, the wiring in my head began to change a little bit. I began to realize the collective good is going to promote, it's going to help individual good. And so my first priority is to promote collective goodness. That's why I'm here, right? I'm sharing with you collectively, if we achieve collectively, then everybody, we get a good share of all these benefits. Your kids too. The schools are better, then your kids are going to benefit, right? So that's why you see all these in Zimbabwe, that's why you see all these mothers, they're working hard, because they know too, the return on investment. I work hard now, so my kids can get better education. That's what we believe in, and that's what, now they believe in it, because they now have believing, hope. What is hope? The power, the believing that you have the power to change. That's hope. We give them that hope. Take your both hands with your power, with your strength. Help us build the hospitals or the schools. That's going to be for your kids so they have a better future. That's the power. So that's what we do. We empower them and we give them hope. So my answer to the question was still, it's not the answer. It's rewiring of your head. Rewiring. So I said at the very first, I'm not here to brainwash you. I'm still not here to brainwash you. But I'm just giving you a different perspective, a different value of life, okay? Because life is very different. You think you can make a lot of money, right? That's fine. You can have a lot of money, and you have the best mansion, drive the best car, your kids go to the best school, or you go to the best schools. But you know what? A lot of times, you get affected by people that are not from your school, from your community, but you have no power to do anything. So thank you, and I wish all of you the best of luck in your future endeavors. Thank you.